Before we get into how the Greeks got so lean, let me ask you something you'll almost certainly get wrong. What was the single biggest expense of an ancient Greek gym? It wasn't the building, nor the equipment. Instead, it was olive oil. Specifically, oil to coat the skin. Before a workout. Rubbed over the whole body, every session. So yes, the Greeks spent more on oil than on anything else they owned. Which should tell you everything about how seriously the Greeks took building the human body. And it's exactly why, 2,500 years later, their bodies are still the blueprint. But coating yourself in oil is one thing. That is not what built the physique. So how did they actually do it? How did they get that freakishly lean, every muscle sharp and visible, nothing wasted, while staying packed with strength and size at the same time? Because that combination is the one thing the modern world swears you can't have. Today, you're forced to choose. Cut the fat, and you watch your muscle disappear with it. Build the muscle, and you bury it under fat. Yet the Greeks didn't choose. They got both because they knew something we've completely forgotten. And it wasn't one trick. It was an entire system, built piece by piece, every part depending on the last. If you want to know what that system was, subscribe and stay to the end. Because the final piece, the one that kept the muscle while the fat burned away, is the part almost everyone today gets exactly backwards. But before we get into how they did it, we have to go back to a word you've completely misunderstood. And the word is diet. Our word comes straight from the Greek, diaita. And to a Greek, diaita didn't mean what you ate, or the plan you suffered through. It meant how you lived. All of it. The food, yes, but also the training, the sleep, the walking, the work, even the air you breathed, and the hours you kept. One whole way of living, run as a single system, every single day. Which means their leanness was a byproduct of the system. So, let's take that system apart, one piece at a time. And it begins on the plate, with food so plain you'd walk straight past it in a supermarket, and so clever it made getting fat almost impossible. Picture what an athlete actually ate. It's barley, not wheat. The Greeks thought wheat was soft, rich, a little decadent, so the serious men ate barley, ground into porridge or baked flat. Add fresh cheese, a handful of dried figs, olives, and the oil pressed from them, beans and lentils, a cup of wine, cut so heavily with water it was barely wine at all. And early on, almost no meat. That's it. That's the food that built the bodies in the museums. Now look closer, because two quiet things are happening on that plate. First, there is no surplus. They ate just enough to fuel the work in front of them, and not a bite more. And your body can only build fat out of extra, out of food it doesn't burn. Take away the extra, and there's simply nothing left to store. Second, and this is the piece people miss entirely, that plate is a wall of fiber. Barley, figs, beans, vegetables. This is some of the most filling food on earth. It sits heavy. It digests slowly. It tells your body you're full long before you've eaten too much. Drop an ancient Greek into a lab today and you'd see it in the numbers. Food, this plain and this full, doesn't spike you, doesn't leave you starving an hour later, doesn't tempt you into a surplus. It fills you up before it can ever fatten you up. The oldest record we have of an athlete's diet shows how little they needed. Charmis of Sparta won the Olympic sprint in 668 BC, and the record says he trained on dried figs. That's the whole headline. But here's the catch. Plenty of people eat little and still stay soft. Eating clean was never enough on its own. The real engine wasn't on the plate at all. It was running every hour they were awake. Because the Greeks barely sat down. There's a word you already know hiding in their world, gymnasium. It comes from the Greek word for naked, because that is how they trained. They trained stripped bare, with nowhere for a soft body to hide. But the gymnasium was not a place you visited 3 times a week. It was the center of daily life. Boys went from childhood. Men went for decades. They wrestled, they threw, they jumped, they ran for hours in the open air. Then they walked everywhere they needed to go, because there was no other way to get there. And their physicians built their whole idea of health around movement. Hippocrates left us a line that still lands today: walking is man's best medicine. Galen, the great doctor who treated gladiators, literally prescribed walks to sick patients like a drug. Now put that Greek in the modern lab one more time. You would not find a starving man on a crash diet. You would find a body burning through energy all day long, every day, just from living. The fat came off not because they ate almost nothing in a panic, but because they were always, gently, slightly behind. A small deficit, made not from hunger, but from motion, held steady across an entire lifetime. This is why the secret was never one thing. It was a way of living, with food, movement, and rest locked together. If you want that full system laid out the way the Greeks actually built it, that's exactly what the art of living like a man is. The link is in the description. But a permanent deficit should come with a price. Burn fat that long, eat that lean, and your muscle is supposed to waste away right along with it. Theirs didn't. And the reason is the piece almost everyone alive today gets exactly backwards. Here's what most people do the moment they start eating less. They get tired. They feel weak. So they go easy. Lighter efforts, shorter sessions, less weight. They shrink the training to match the smaller plate. The Greeks did the exact opposite. And it's the whole secret. Look at Sparta. Spartan boys were kept hungry on purpose. Their rations set deliberately low, never quite enough to feel full, for years on end. Grown Spartans skipped meals on principle, because, as they said, a full belly slows a fighter. They ate less than almost anyone alive. But here is the part that matters. They never, ever trained less. Hungry or not, they ran, they wrestled, they threw the javelin, they drilled. Every single day, their whole lives. The food shrank, but the work never did. And that is the signal that saves muscle. When you keep demanding everything from your body, when you go all out even on an empty stomach, your body gets the message, loud and clear. Do not let go of this muscle. We still need it. Stop using it, and it reads that muscle as dead weight and burns it for fuel. Now here's the part the modern world gets wrong. People think keeping muscle means defending a number, the same heavy weight every session, forever. But the Greeks had no number to defend. No barbell, no logbook, no personal record carved on the wall. They simply walked into the pit and gave everything they had against the man in front of them, fed or starving, strong day or weak day. The constant was never the load. It was the effort. And here's what's wild. Modern science has finally caught up to them. We now know that what actually protects muscle isn't the exact weight you lift. It's the effort you bring, how close you push to your limit. When your lifts dip during a cut, that's usually not lost muscle at all. It's just less fuel in the tank, a little fatigue, and a lighter body with less leverage. Chase the old number and you miss the point. Bring the effort and the muscle stays. The Greeks couldn't have explained why. They just never stopped going all out, fed or starving, day after day after day. But effort alone cannot hold muscle together. Effort is the signal. It tells the body what to keep. But a signal is useless if there is nothing to build with. There was one more raw material the whole system depended on, and it was protein. Figs and cheese built the early athletes, and it worked. But as the training turned brutal, the best of them found they could push harder with more protein on the plate. So they kept adding it. The clearest case is a long-distance runner named Dromius of Stymphalos. Around 480 BC, he loaded his diet with meat, on top of the cheese, fish, eggs, and beans they already ate, and his results were good enough that trainers started copying him. They did not throw out the old food, they built on top of it. And here is why it mattered, in the terms we would use today. Protein is what the body rebuilds muscle out of. Cut your food and train all out, and your body is under constant pressure to tear into its own muscle for fuel. Give it enough protein, and you hand it another option: spare the muscle, burn the fat instead. Drop a Greek into a modern lab, and that extra protein is exactly what you would see keeping him lean and packed with muscle at the same time. Now step back and see the whole machine. A plate with no surplus and a wall of fiber, so the fat had nothing to feed on. A body in motion all day, so the deficit stayed gentle and never stopped. A training effort that never dropped, no matter how little they ate, so the muscle always had a reason to stay, and just enough protein to hold it there. 4 pieces, and not one of them works alone. Eat clean, but sit still, and you stay soft. Train hard, but eat to excess, and you bury the body under bulk. Cut the food, but go easy in the gym, and you lose the very muscle you were trying to keep. The Greeks didn't balance these things by accident. They lived them as one thing, and the lean, hard, timeless body simply fell out the other side. The leanness was never the goal. It was the proof. The ancient way exists to recover what was lost. If this changed how you think about the next time you eat or train or skip a meal and walk out the door anyway, you already know what to do.